For all of you out there listening, if you are in the market for any kind of software development needs, check out Studio NoCode. It's our agency that's built on Bubble experts with nearly a decade of experience building all kinds of Bubble apps. Marketplace, social network, payroll company, catering business, data room, ad tech, legal tech. We got a little bit of everything. We've seen it all, and that helps us translate all of our knowledge into your app to build the best product for your customers. We built it professionally, we built it to be secure, and we built it to scale. And we're going to do all these things on time and on budget. So if you are looking for help getting off the ground, getting something to market, or anything in between, give us a call or an email or a carrier pigeon or whatever you want. Studio-nocode.com. We'll probably be there.
You're listening to This Week in No Code plus AI, with weekly episodes sharing the latest advancements of AI, plus exclusive interviews, founders using these tools. So without any further ado, let's get started. Welcome to This Week in No Code plus AI. I'm your host, JJ Englert, here with my co-host, David Pal, and we have another exciting show for you this week in No Code. We've had a couple weeks of a break, a little summer break, summer vacation, but we have some exciting news for you this week. A lot going on. And then we have a CEO that we're bringing on the show later on to talk about what it's like running a tech company right now, his thoughts on the no-code, low-code AI industry at large, and just some other things entrepreneurial related. But David, why don't you get us started with the news for the week?
All right, let's start with this really interesting news. Google has been ruled a board game. Oh, sorry. Google has been ruled a monopoly. A federal judge has found Google guilty of maintaining an illegal monopoly and violating antitrust laws. This is a decision that has been decades in the making. It feels like everyone's going after Google. People will go after Microsoft and Amazon and everyone
It's
as
a tough
well.
time for them.
Yeah, I mean, with basically making it hard to do deals and competition being so strict, DuckDuckGo, which is a privacy forward search history, a search engine, and Yelp basically coming at Google going, hey guys, like, we can't compete with you because of how you run your business. They have now said, hey, you have to start making some changes. So it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens with this, like where this plays out, how this impacts the ad business, because it's not just like Google search and browsers, it's also the ad world. They are still the dominant force. They are in control. Lots of people have built businesses around them, but it's really hard to compete because of how intermingled everything is. A few years ago, you may remember that Google turned into Alphabet. That's everyone thought that's what they were doing. Like, the whole point of becoming Alphabet was to split the businesses up so that it feels like businesses competing with each other and not with one big behemoth. So we'll see how this shakes out. Expect some changes.
I got a big take for you, a big take. I think Monopoly, Google, is right at the point right now that Kodak was back when digital film, the revolution was coming about for digital film. Kodak, for those who remember, created cameras and film cameras, right? And then digital cameras came out, and Kodak was very slow to adopt this new style of taking photos and whatnot. And so it was this massive company that with this new technology really felt a decline and has kind of declined since. And I think Google is at that stage right now where they have major things hitting on them on all sides. They're deemed a monopoly here. They're in the AI wars. There's a lot of different things going on, and they have a lot of opportunity here. But for the first time ever, I'm just not sure that they're going to continue to be the number one player in the space. And I think we could see a decline from them.
I think it's actually a little bit the opposite. I think Google is the monopoly, as opposed to, in that example, Kodak was the incumbent who had tech that was losing. Google's winning. And in fact, I think Google's AI, like their DeepMind, their research, they were the origin of transformers. They're like they bought the character AI guy back who was like an OG Google employee who wrote the Transformers script. Like that's what people are fighting over is they have so much money and they make
Sure.
so much money that they can spend $350 million to basically buy this one guy back. That seems really unfair to everybody else. Like, how is anyone gonna compete? Um, so I think it's a little bit the opposite. They are actually taking off, and everyone else is like Yelp going, "Oh crap, I'm reliant on Google. I can't win because they're controlling my destiny."
It's gonna be a fun one to follow. Agree to disagree. It's a big company for sure. But let's move on to the next one.
Sure.
Flux, the new king of AI image generation. If you got been on Twitter or anything of the last 2 weeks, you've seen a ton of images coming across. And these images from Flux are really, really great images. It's an open source AI image generation model gaining significant attention as its competitor Midjourney. There's a lot of great things coming out of this, and then they're taking these images and putting into some other models to make them into videos. Very realistic stuff. David, what have you seen from Flux in the last couple of weeks?
I didn't even realize that I was looking at Flux images. I'm like, this is insane. This is we're getting to a point where depending on the image and like the scenery, it's very hard to tell what's real and what's not.
Yeah,
Um I think like I'd like to think that there's some subconscious amount of feeling that we get to know that it's AI. Like we kind of get some kind of weird feeling that we know it's AI, or at least like not just a raw image.
hmm
Um, it'll be interesting to see if social media influencers start going back to just like images before filters because now everything looks filtered and you want to prove that you're
interesting.
real.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's great. I still don't think there are that many uses that are really first class uses of image generation. I still
yeah,
think it's hard to edit images.
yeah,
If you need headshots, great, like use Flux. If you need
sure.
background images, great, use Flux.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool
It's
though.
maybe even marketing images, but still it's hard to like capture your product in a good way and then add other things into it. So I think what's cool about Flux is like it's a whole new player coming up. And they just built this awesome algorithm that is, now competing for one of the best AI image generation. So I think that's really cool. This weekend, particularly, everyone is talking about Cursor. They just raised a $60 million round. It's a new IDE and it has AI inside the editor that allows users to prompt to build. And the way that they've integrated AI into the IDE for programmers is really, really smart. You can use natural language to have it write code for you. It will ask you, like, if you run into a problem with your code, you can ask it to help you fix the code. There's so many ways that you can use natural language, and just the way that it's integrated at such a deep level, it's probably the most exciting thing that I've seen on the AI IDE side of things. And it's really threatening no code in a lot of different ways for different sectors of no code, not all no code, but I think it's making a real push and it will continue to go in this direction. David, what do you think about Cursor?
Um, I have lots of thoughts. I think it's interesting. I think one of the reasons why it's popping off so much is because of how polarizing it is. You know,
In what sense?
I think it looks like, hey, this is going to be the way all software engineering works from lots of people. People are, I think what's so exciting about it is not actually where it is today, but how people imagine it will evolve into the future.
Yeah, a lot of
Um,
potential.
I think from what just talking to some developers, lots of people still can't really build production stuff on Cursor,
Interesting.
right? Like I can build it to do app. I could
hmm
also build that following Gregory John's tutorial in Bubble in an afternoon, right? Like these
hmm
aren't the hard things to build.
Right.
And I think Cursor will be a really awesome tool for bringing throwaway code to the world. And what I mean by that is it will be a project that is used for one specific thing by a team of people that may not be in production at scale of millions,
hmm
but it will do the thing that time until you rewrite it and you get traction.
So you don't see it as a replacement for a code editor, like a Copilot or something like that with another IDE. You see it as a way to almost get your MVP out faster and to ship ideas faster, but still with a code base.
I think it is a if you are using Cursor as the only source of code, you will have trouble turning it into a production app. You will be able to build a thing just like you can with no code.
Hmm.
I still think you will have some trouble actually getting past that point. I think uh it feels better to have it written in code than in Bubble. Um because it's code. I think it's still hard to figure out how to do DevOps
Hmm.
and host it reliably.
Yeah, but you think the
Um
potential's there. I mean, it's a new platform. It just raised a ton of money. I feel like in the next couple of years, who knows where it can go.
yeah, I think I think we can't use fundraising as an example um of what's working and what's not. I think there's lots of FOMO happening right now in the investor community. I think a lot of people are doubling down on projects that aren't really working, but they want it to work, so they keep throwing money at it to give it a status. Um, I think there's still a lot that needs to happen, and I think it will happen. That's not what I'm
Hmm.
not saying we'll never use a text-based IDE or a text slash visual IDE combo to build code and build production ready products. I think this is not the final version of it.
Sure. Yeah. My thoughts are it's really impressive, and I feel like this is the direction that we're going to see kind of start to blend no code and code together. And I can see a platform like Cursor making it literally just one click to integrate your hosting, your SSLs, your auth, etc. And I know that there are current ways to do that with uh is it a replicate? How do you say it?
Replit,
Replit. You could do like a one-click replit, a one-click replit. Is it? I can't say
you could
that.
host it onto Replit. Yeah, sure.
You can host it there. You can also have some programs that you can spin up scripts for your own auth. But I feel like it's literally going to become just all built in if you want it to be. So, like where you have the infrastructure built in with a text based editor that you could just access and use AI with for all the code. I feel like that model is very promising and will push no code platforms that are focusing on the enterprise area of no code. If you look at like a Bubble, a Flutterflow, etc., they're really focused on replacing developers and like making development much faster and easier and visual. I feel like a platform like Cursor really has the opportunity to overcome them because it's still straight code, and it's much faster to work with, much faster to build with. Hypothetically, that's the idea, and so it could offer you the best of both worlds, and also still making it easy to all your hosting, all that kind of stuff, all built in. So I still think like platforms like Software and everything still will be in their own lane because this stuff you don't for like a client portal internal tool. Sometimes you just don't need code. It just doesn't make sense. It's so overkill, and you want your marketing team to be able to build this stuff. So I don't think it's going to impact that side of the industry. I think it's really going to impact the more professional side of the industry with the more professional tools. Personally,
I guess my thought is if you're going down this path of learning code, why would you ever veer into no code as opposed to using a tool like BuildShip, where it is a AI code gen tool in no code. It like
hmm
these are two separate paths. Like, why would I ever need a front end builder if I can just I think that's arguably the easiest part of the cursor stuff. Does it line up the way you want? Rearrange it. Most of that's not so hard. The scaling processing is probably harder. If you're going to get into cursor and do this with code, just do the whole thing in code. You should never
yeah,
need no code. If you want to do code gen in no code, it should be within a no code framework that you don't need the rest of it to be able to build and scale. I think they're almost, I don't know that they collide in that way. I feel like they're separate paths.
Interesting.
Um,
It's
yeah.
there's a this is Cursor's the first time that I was like, okay, like we're really taking a next step up of code and no code, and the simplicity of just finding text with AI to really write this code at a really simple level. Like one of our community members, she's a pure no coder, knows no code at all. Was like, hey, I'm going to try Cursor, get in there, see what I can do in 2 hours. And essentially, she's like, hey, I was able to set up some stuff. I ran into some problems. I was able to have AI help me figure it out. There's still a lot of infrastructure that like you need to set up, and sometimes I don't know what to do. And I have some kind of a background with no code, so I know I kind of need to set up this infrastructure, but it's obviously not as easy with no code in that way, where a lot of this comes built in. And she, in 2 to 3 hours, wasn't able to really build anything, but saw the potential and was willing to then dedicate more time to continue learning it. And I feel like, with each advancement like this, code advancement, AI code advancement, stuff like that, it's like one less reason to spend 3 to 6 months learning a no code platform personally. Because if I could spend 3 to 6 months just learning how to code with AI kind of powering me and, pushing me at a faster pace than ever, why am I going to spend 3 to 6 months to learn a no code platform where, yeah, there's still a lot of benefits with that, but if I'm going to code in a professional way, maybe I just learn code to begin with.
But
There's a lot
why
there.
use Cursor to learn how to code? Like, why is that? It doesn't feel like you're learning to code. You're learning to prompt. You're not learning like how a loop works or why you use a for loop versus a while loop. Sure, you can ask the AI why, but why not just go take 3 months and learn to code?
Well, that's my thought is to take the 3 to 6 months to learn to code, and then you'll have tools like this to help you code even faster um, along
Yeah,
the
but
way.
when we were talking along, probably early, one of the early podcasts, like the point of no code was in an hour, not even in 5 minutes, you put a button on a screen and you have a thing. It's
Hmm.
done. And that's in the education of it. That's the activation energy that you don't get with code. And
That's
maybe you
true.
do get that with code now with AI, where you say, hey, build me a screen that does this, but then you still need to back out how it works. In
Yeah, you
no
got to
code,
host
you'll
it. You need to
never
do
need
so
to
much
care.
else.
And
Yeah.
and I think there will still be really bad code written with AI. Like just the same way we
100%.
have really bad no code with AI or without AI with just using no code. I don't think people who are debating, do I learn to code, are going to use Cursor to learn to code. And I think more still people, we live in a bubble on Twitter. I think the vast majority of people are still not thinking, I wish I knew how to code. They just want to
Yeah,
be rich.
I agree. It's very interesting. There's a lot to go back and forth on with this, and I think it's going to be, a thing that many of the pro no coders continue to do. And I think we see a lot with it, a lot of the pro no coders talking about this because I think they've just gotten to a point with no code where they're pushing it so hard where they're just kind of saying, I should just learn to code at this point. But they're a small subset of a lot larger of an industry as well. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. But before we get on to our interview of the day, I do want to say two things on my side. So on the No Code Alliance side, you might have already seen that I have, if you're a user or member of No Code Alliance, that I have published an update. It's a full brand new 2.0 No Code Alliance that I'm really proud of. And I'm just getting ready to launch the job board version of it. And so for many years, employers have always reached out to me. It's like, hey, do you know any no code talent that you can connect me with? And I've always been connecting talent because of my network and, the people that I know. And so now I'm just going to do this in a bigger way, doing it in a more systemized, processed way, bringing my connections to this industry in that job form way. And so I'm really excited about that. And then also this week, I just acquired one of the largest no code newsletters. I can't say who it is yet or what it is yet. We're just going to make an announcement in a couple of days. But I'm really excited to combine that newsletter effort with the relaunch of No Code Alliance and bring it all together to help this industry continue to grow, continue to mature. There's already a lot of other job boards out there, Contra being one of them, that are really great job boards. And I'm not trying to compete there. I think my special angle with No Code Alliance is education. And so that will be a big emphasis on this job board is allowing employers to say, post a job and say what certifications are required, or what, if they have preference of what courses should be required, if they would like these candidates, that kind of stuff. Also, I have tons of knowledge on industry rates submitted by no-code developers of the world. So suggesting which rates to employers for, when they're posting their job, also providing resources to employers of what tool might be the best and more education there. And so really trying to take an education focused plan to this industry, providing more knowledge, transparency across the board, while also making great connections with top no-code and AI talent. So I'm really excited about that. It's been something where I've been back in the saddle building at night. It's been really fun. And with no-code and AI, I mean, I could build so fast now. It's literally insane how fast I could build these things. So,
What are you using to speed up your build in Bubble?
man, I'm still building in Bubble because that's where No Code Alliance was built, and it's 3 years old now. So I'm still using Bubble for it, and I have an API endpoint set up in OpenAI that I kind of just have that I can send kind of anything to, and so I have used that endpoint in a million different ways of just like, hey, generate this content for me because maybe I'm updating my database and I don't have information for these fields. I could trigger it to run on all my users to generate new information per the user with that endpoint. I'm also using it to create new jobs. So when the employer comes in and says, hey, I'm looking for something, just give me a couple sentences, and then AI will, extract that and really make it a full post and everything to really save them time there. Using it in a lot of different ways just across the board. I have AI kind of just in there to hopefully just make it easier to use, make it more impactful for folks looking to hire and folks looking to land jobs.
Cool.
And so, yeah, feeling a lot of good energy behind that and excited to bring it to you all.
Feels good to be building.
Gotta love building. I'm such a builder. You always forget that. It's like, I don't want the building to end because now I'm entering the selling part, right? And that's the hard part about being a
That's
builder.
where it really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's for sure. All right, why don't we get into our interview of the week?
Now, a quick break for our sponsor of This Week in No Code.
If any of you guys are looking to learn more about Bubble, whether you're a beginner or a professional looking to get certifications and take your skills to the next level, you got to check out No Code Alliance. It's been a personal project of mine for the last 2 to 3 years. I have 5 different courses there, all focusing on Bubble and taking you from zero to pro. And these courses tell you everything you need to know to start earning 6 figures as a Bubble developer. So go to nocodealliance.org, either get started with the beginner course or take our package and go from zero to pro in the next 3 to 6 months, and you won't regret it. That's nocodealliance.org. Back to the show.
Well, we're very excited for this interview this week. We have the CEO and founder of Flytech, the go-to-market platform for legal tech, SaaS, and other companies. I'll let Dean take it away. Founder and CEO Dean Shapero, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Appreciate you having us, guys. Yeah. Excited to jump into this conversation here.
Yeah, tell us just what is your company?
Yeah, so as David said, we're Flytech.
I fumbled around through.
Wait, still nailed the key point. We're essentially a marketing agency for legal technology companies, legal vendors, really anyone who sells things to lawyers, mainly working in highly targeted paid advertising. So that's kind of our bread and butter. That's been most of our core team's background has been paid advertising and ad targeting. So that's why, that's how we're in this extremely niche business that we found ourselves in.
Riches and niches, right?
I hope so. Yeah.
Still waiting on the first
trying to
part,
figure that one out.
in the niches. It's so funny. I always talk about my last company as a get rich quick scheme that turned into a get poor slowly scheme. It was just like we're hoping that it's just like, oh, I know the answer. I had this business, and it just like it's business, right? It's hard. It doesn't matter. It's hard.
Everything's hard, yeah. But I found, being at least an expert in certain areas, as you guys are in the no code, low code world, it helps, and especially in a really nuanced industry like legal, it's especially beneficial. Yeah, it's worked out well for us so far.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of legal background or anything like that? Like, why did you choose this niche?
So my background historically, the last, decade plus, 15 years or so now, has been in more ad target. And long story short, I guess like 2019-ish going into 2020, I started another company that was focused on privacy compliance in light of a lot of the new, at the time, privacy regulations. That
like
brought me
GDPR
originally
and CCPA stuff.
CPA most specifically, but GDPR, a lot of the other international ones, like Brazil had a big one that was being passed at the moment. Initially, it was for selling to mainly e-commerce stores. That's the work the most, but it quickly turned into working with their legal departments. And that kind of just got us into the legal world. Fast forward a couple of years, that company, for a variety of reasons, just didn't pan out, but mainly because the regulations were largely unenforced. But that gave us a very interesting vantage point into selling into legal. And because of our network, we had met a lot of other people in legal and legal tech. We started companies focused on that niche. It wasn't always on that niche. We were originally a little more broad, but we had so much in legal that we just doubled down and entirely then started focusing on legal technology.
Was this a pivot or a start and restart? Stop and restart.
New company.
New thing.
Yeah, exactly. So this one initially with low-code, we were anticipating making it more of like Zoom info for niche businesses, legal being the foothold. So that was kind of the core focus of what we were putting out, but we ended up just running it and building it as an agency because people needed help leveraging the data. The last one before that was like a pure play, true SaaS, like self-serve, low-cost software. So very, very businesses.
Yeah. So you talk about SaaS versus agency. We could talk about that for days, but I was talking to Andrew on your team and he was saying something about, some of the platform was built on Bubble. My ears perked up, of course. So tell us about how you use Bubble, how you use low code in your business today.
Yeah. So it's funny, like the beginning of Flytech, we were always, like I said, thinking about this as a more of a software play initially. So starting Flytech after the last company, like I had no money. We had no money. We didn't really have, and I'm a little technical, but like, I'm not a developer by any means. So we're like, well, okay, how could we get something to market as fast as possible just to even test if anyone even wanted this at all before we built more formally. So I had just always had heard about Bubble. So we used Bubble for that. Without going too deep, I guess we started building the platform. And like I was kind of alluding to, we started almost more of like a consultation agency around that platform, around using a lot of the data. And then that started taking off. But then we've always like kind of dipped our toes into building more of a formalized like database on AWS or something. But we just have kind of like been so used to the Bubble ecosystem ever since then. And it's served us well. So actually beginning maybe like mid of last year, we were scoping another dev cycle and we're like, let's just keep scaling up Bubble. Bubble works. We like Bubble. So it's almost just like forced adoption on us initially, but then there's really been no reason to leave it for us. Yeah.
When you started on Bubble, you're like, all right, great. This is going to be the gritty MVP. And then we're going to throw it out, raise the money, get the devs, spend the money on like $1 million to rebuild it. And it'll be fine. And you're like, actually the idea has changed and now we're going to stay on Bubble.
Yep. That's a great way of summarizing it. Yeah. The idea was proof of concept. Keep in mind, this is also, I guess, 21. Like this is like Q1 21. So the VC market was looking back then.
Yeah.
We're like,
frothy times.
Get some points in the board, show some traction, go raise a round, build it more formally. And then the market crashed. Yeah. And then at the same time, though, like to just make some money for both survival and also just data points, we were just working very manually. Like, we're almost the users of the software. And that served us really well. We started growing a lot. So we said, why? And I've very often throughout the last several years kind of had to like stop myself from trying to go so hard back into software because I've been more in the software side throughout my, career so far. But every time we come back to the fact that, our partners want a person, want someone to help them with this stuff versus like a UI. So we still are the users of our platform. Our platform essentially is a database of super niche data tied to Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok ads and other channels too, but the three being the biggest. So yeah, it's kind of emerged as like this internal workflow tool that makes us very scalable.
What do you think would have happened if you had raised enough money to hire a dev team and you actually had to then you had code to maintain? What would be different?
It would have been horrible because we had been building things that we thought the market wanted versus just responding to customers' needs, and things move so, especially in advertising, marketing tech. I mean, David, you know, you're in ad tech before also, so you see it also. It moves so quickly. Like things that work today may not work at all in a quarter or two. So being able to stay much more nimble is one of the things we love most about staying in no-code, low-code environments versus unintentionally overbuilding and being limited in the amount of pivots or, you know, maneuvers we could make because we have this heavy code.
Do you guys build it yourself, or do you have like a part-time developer or full-time developer on staff?
Yeah, we have someone on staff. They are technically paid hourly, but we at times take small breaks, but we work pretty actively. Initially, that's actually only a little under a year now we've been doing that. The first, I guess, year and a half was all me. Like I built it.
There you go.
Maintained it all myself. Yeah, but then
Love
it's the place where it was
Yeah.
me was just not, I couldn't manage everything myself. So that's when we hired a dedicated bubble resource.
How long did it take you to get up and running with it?
Well, that's a good question. It's just kind of been iterative since early 21. So, but there's been like sprints where I and us as a company have been much more involved in the build out based on customer needs. So 21, a lot, especially early when we were figuring it out. 22, it more so ended up being like a reporting dashboard, which was great, but not really requiring a ton of maintenance from there, and like more of like internal project management, if you can think of it, like managing campaigns and assigning work. That was most of 22. 23, we started adding some other really interesting targeting features. So I guess probably like Q2, Q3 of 23, we got really deep into Bubble again, into the development cycle. And that's when our business was growing a lot. So like I couldn't manage the business and Bubble. So we said, let's hire for Bubble. And then Q4, a little bit of Q1, but aggressively. And actually, I guess Q4, back half of Q1 and very much Q2, we did a lot more build out. And right now we still have a lot more we need to do, but it's in a pretty good place for what we need. So it's not, I want to say like it's on simmer, but it's like not hardcore, sprints at the moment.
In your previous companies, did you guys have any kind of technical solutions that you built with traditional code?
Yeah. So my last one, which I ran from, I guess, like end of 2018, really, and end of 2020, that was all like traditional build out. Like we had an engineering team. I had a CTO who's far smarter than me. Actually manage these sprint cycles. But now, because I'm a control freak, I can actually understand what I'm doing in Bubble. Which I love that part of it. And then, so exactly. That was
that's what I was getting at. Is like, don't you just feel so much more power in your own business that you can actually get into tech yourself and do something with it?
And I don't need a translator. I can just understand. And we've like a relatively,
the translation is a key piece of that. You get it.
I know. I love it. I just have context. I can understand and have like educated conversation versus having to like digest what's being said to me and then react to it.
There are two interesting things that you said. The first, I think most founders never get over this hump. They don't make the transition from being the Bubble dev to being the CEO. And you said this, like at some point the business was too big. You had to just go run the business. And I think a lot of people find comfort in, let me add another feature. Let me spend time in the Bubble editor and not on the phone with clients. And it's really hard for people to transition from being the builder to being the CEO.
You know why I think that's the case? I suffer from this myself. Like it's fun. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to.
The dopamine of releasing a new feature is real.
1,000%. Yeah, it's so much fun to be in there. Like I miss. Sometimes I don't literally, because I like where we're at now much better. But I kind of miss those early days where I would spend like 14 hours like without even realizing it, like deep in Bubble. Like, that was so much fun, but it's not scalable, and it's much more scalable to hire for that than to hire for client facing stuff. So that's where my time is best spent, for the company.
Yeah. But that's big though. Like David said, like not a lot of people get there, and then it just turns into a product and not like a real business.
And they think, oh, I'll just, I keep using this analogy. It's a field of dreams business. If I build it, they will come, and magically, I build the next feature and then they're going to show up, and it just isn't how it works.
100%. I see so many especially venture-backed startups who did raise a lot of money. They're like, oh, we're one feature away from it working. I'm like, it's not like that.
That's not how that goes.
I've lived that world myself. It's a tough world.
Yeah, same. My last company was exactly that. It's like, we're one feature away from everything just working. And that's just not.
And with traditional tech, that's a very expensive bet, and it's time consuming.
Yeah. Yeah. You're talking like a multi-quarter cycle versus like a multi-week cycle.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing that you said, which was interesting, and just as a observation from someone who also runs a bubble agency, lots of CEOs and founders come to me and say, hey, this is exactly what I need. I know exactly what the MVP will be. You had said basically it slid into being done. Like, we kept building as we were getting feedback, and we kept knowing what we needed. And having the insight as you're building and building with clients alongside is way different than just, I have an idea, let me just build this thing and then start selling it or then talking about it. Like, you kind of need to do them both at the same time and not just think, oh, this is the end of the MVP, it's now done. But really, that's not how it goes.
That's how it works. A book I love, it's kind of cliche because it's like every startup about this, but I really do think it's a phenomenal book, is The Lean Startup. Just preaching this of just like, move and iterate, right? Release an MVP, see what works, see what people stick, and then from there. It's funny because that's what we intended to do as we ended up just, this market wanted a service, so we just scaled it up as a service.
Yeah. Where do you think low code and no code fits in the VC world?
That's a good question. I think it opens up a larger question of like, what does the VC world look like with low code, with no code, with AI also, when dev cycles are much easier, things are much easier to build? I don't know. I think, let's put it this way. I think every serial entrepreneur I know has been through enough. The VC, hamster wheel is like, man, we're building low code, we're not raising, we're controlling our own destiny. So I think maybe, your question, I think more macro speaking, I think a lot more companies are going to be built on this that don't need venture capital at all. So I don't know what that means for VC then. I don't know if VCs should take bigger and bigger bets on like deep tech or hardware and things like that. Or I have a hypothesis that we'll see a lot more like venture debt or revenue-based financing companies versus VCs, because a lot of these guys can make money out the gate and $1 companies, but they can make millions in revenue. And I can make money as a financial investor on like a smaller amount, of course, obviously, but a more safe return if I'm doing venture debt on low code, stable, cash flow positive businesses. So that's a long-winded answer of saying I don't really know where it plays into VC.
No, it's interesting. I was having a conversation yesterday with a friend talking about how awesome it could be if every YC company, every YC founding pair would be paired with an expert no-code dev so that they could just launch these MVPs in days and not be, spending 20 hours a day coding.
Market,
they could go sell and pitch. And then it starts with no code, and then, you build it into no code or not. The MVP may not need to be no code to get started, or need to be code to get started.
What's interesting then, I think about this a lot too, is like, if that's the world we go into, there's a lot of types of moats, right? Like, you don't have to have a technical moat. And I think other moats are going to be more important. Like, I don't know, like we talk niches, right? You can own a niche really quickly, maybe build
audience distribution.
Yeah, exactly. I think that becomes a lot more interesting because the technical barrier isn't as important, but the market capture and the network effects are even more important.
The execution.
And the execution, of course.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a thing with no code and low code, is that technical thing is much less of a barrier. And it's really just, how good of a businessman or woman are you kind of thing.
How good of a business is this?
Yeah.
Totally.
So much of business is not like, my customer shouldn't care about the tech I use. They're going to use they're going to change their behavior. That's the hardest part, right? And if you can get them to change their behavior to the way you see things and do things, that's way more valuable than having written it in Python or or no code. Like, it doesn't really matter anything more than that.
And even like the buzzwords today, like again, from a legal technology perspective, to encourage all of our customers, push all of our customers to specifically mention AI, not mention artificial intelligence. There's so much legal AI. We're always saying like the law firm does not care if you're on no code or low code or AI or whatever. They want something very specific solved for them. Focus on how you solve that thing and not how, the sausage is made, because they don't care. They just want their problem handled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just care about the results.
They just care about the results. Exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk. We asked a couple questions over email. Let's talk about automation and AI in your business. Like, where do you think AI is today? Where is it most helpful? How do you think about using at Flytech?
Yeah, you know what? Here's another answer that we had not spoken about before, but I think is be worth addressing for anyone listening. Is like something I think would be really useful for AI is some level of like a personal AI to tell me where I should be thinking about automation or scaling myself. Just so in the weeds. I'm like, I don't know. There's probably 1,000 things I should be automating that I don't think about because I'm just so in it. I don't have time to reflect on those things. And then they're done and I don't think about them again until they're in front of me again. So there's probably so many areas that I don't even think of. And I think a lot of people would feel the same way on that. So that's one really interesting one.
Yeah. There, you're not the first person. I'm part of this networking group or community, I don't know, entrepreneur community, Hampton. And I asked a bunch of agency friends like, hey, like we're trying to build, AI and automation and internal tools. I'd love to get some ideas of like what you need help with. And everyone basically says, I don't know, probably everything. Like, I don't know what you can do. I don't know what the options are. And it's so interesting because it's not really, and we were thinking about on the agency, if we're going to sell to nonprofits, we're going to basically offer them a venting session to just complain. And we're going to tell you how we can build a fix.
And it's a phenomenal idea. Yeah. Like just make them, let them just like word vomit.
Yeah. Airing of grievances online. Just like,
that's a fantastic.
Tell me what's wrong. And we'll tell you what tools we'd stitch together to fix it.
It's almost like operating systems just need some kind of notification where like they detect you did the same thing like 2 or 3 times. They just say, do you want to automate that? He just says yes. And it's just automated.
It'd be interesting to have it at the hardware level, like in your laptop, or even an easier idea. Here's an idea. Like you can even like just do this, I guess. Like you should tell people who are considering this stuff, like just turn on Loom or screen recording or something and just go about your day. And send it over, and like there's probably so many things that like some type of either a person type of AI tool can say, hey, all these things here can be automated and we're going to just put it in motion for you.
Yeah. We just in our last interview had the founder of Assign AI on, and that company, what it was is a Loom-like video. So if you had a task, you would record your screen just going through the task, and then it would just create an AI workflow just to do it for you then. And so you can answer your email, log into your things, whatever, and just redo exactly what you just did in a Loom-like way.
Phenomenal idea. I want to check them out after this call.
Yeah, there you go.
They were like clicking some property management tool to get a report of how many people were delinquent. You string all these things together. It's interesting, like, and now there are so many AI tools on top of these screen recording things that like, the prompt is turn this into a standard operating procedure to hand to my VC or my EA and have them do it. And it's like a confidence score that my EA could do this. Like that kind of thing is a pretty wild feeder into these like automation agencies.
It's a great idea. Yes. I think that's a good place for it. And then just other tactical stuff, I guess, is a lot of what we spoke about over email. It'd be interesting is in the generative space. Now, we would love to use one thing that's just a slow thing in agencies, marketing agencies, is creative. I think that's going to be a long, long time before it's automated. But I think in the shorter time, like our designers can use it. So I'd love to get that in their hands. But we've tried it. It just hasn't really, it's not there quite.
The quality.
Really make it. Yeah, it's just not usable from like, probably for brainstorming ideas and just more like low
placeholder text and stuff like
that.
Yeah,
not something we're going to put in market to get like lead generation results by using something that came from Dolly. It's not there yet, but that would be a great world where it is like that. And again, like I don't think the designer, we wouldn't replace the designer because we need someone to do it. Someone needs to still do the
Yeah.
work. So it's
Yeah.
prompting, but the designer can make us 1,000 iterations, show our client, the client gives us feedback, same day turnaround on the on the iteration they wanted to make, and it's out in market testing, see what people are responding to, and then make more alterations based on where we see some data.
Yeah, there's also a lot of A/B testing that can be done and a lot of data that you could feed it from your previous campaigns of like what is working and the ability to ingest that data of what's working and not faster and maybe even automatically use AI to create new A/B tests and variants to get out there quicker to see if something's working. So, yeah, I think one of the cool things about AI is you can ingest so much information and find those insights that lead to success faster than ever before, which then can then help you execute at a better stage.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be interesting, like thinking about hopping into an ads manager, taking a screenshot and saying, hey, AI, hey, OpenAI Vision, how would you change this campaign to perform? Like, what, I wonder what it would say.
It would
To
be,
some of them.
that's another one. The actual optimizations, it's actually relatively these days, at least in our business, right? These like niche B2B paid advertising campaigns, it's relatively subjective on what levers to pull and what to feed it. I always joke, like, I'm like, we feel like we spend like half our day at Flytech, like trying to reverse engineer how Facebook's algorithms work.
Yeah.
You're just trying to feed it, you're trying to push in the right direction, you're trying to get it to like find the people you want, especially in legal, because like if you are selling to a personal injury lawyer, you probably cannot, you're probably not trying to target a, M&A transaction attorney.
Yeah.
Very, very different people, even though they're still attorneys. So trying to guide it in the right direction. And we're luckily very good at that. But yeah, having AI, if we just relied on like Meta's AI, for example, it'd be terrible at that. But using maybe more custom AI that has better reasoning on what steps to do based on our past optimizations, that would be pretty interesting.
Be
'Cause we don't-
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, like e-commerce,
Huh.
great. Meta's fine at figuring out who wants to buy your product, but finding a personal injury attorney versus a estate planning attorney is very different. So we have to do a lot of that work, and I'm sure there's consistencies that we're not aware of
Yeah.
that we're not even thinking of that AI can maybe help with that.
Yeah. Especially if you're thinking about like the crossover between personal preference and work preference. Like they are
Yeah.
people as well that do a job. Their behavior, like the way people act online and the way they act in a courtroom could be very different. And so their preferences and what they're looking at and searching and liking and following may not reflect their job.
But what you could do is maybe, once you find a conversion of success, spin up a team of AI agents to then go and capture information about the people that are buying from you or leading to a success, and then capturing that information and try to find common denominators of like, okay, this is that customer that's really working for us in an automated way to have some follow-up insights. There's ways.
Let's wrap this up. Just before you go, how do people find you? How do they follow you? What else do you want people to know?
No, if you want to find out more on Flytech, feel free to visit us at flytech.legal or flytech.ai. It's the same website. We don't really use that much AI today, but nice domain, so we grabbed it. So you can look at either of those. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Dean Shapero, or our company page, Flytech on LinkedIn. We try to be more active. We're progressively getting there. We're just busy, so we never actually post. Even though we tell our clients to post, we rarely do it ourselves. And yeah, if anyone has questions on general legal, obviously, but niche B2B go to markets, that's kind of our bread and butter. So feel free to reach out and share thoughts with anyone listening.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and excited to see another entrepreneur, no coder out there. It's a good life. Keep on going.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys. Yeah, fun.
Yeah.
Thanks. So it was interesting to see a perspective of where AI falls short in using the business, right? Like we talk about, AI is going to solve all these problems. And, Dean kind of faces these problems and can see where generative AI falls short a little bit.
Yeah, I was interested to hear his response to generative AI. I feel like that it would be a good thing to do, like writing the creative. The images, I agree, it's not there yet, but if you could feed it, thousands of past successful campaigns that you've done and said, hey, here's the data. Now write this for me. I feel like it would be pretty good there. But I also feel like it's just one of those things where they're finding success with what they're doing. And as an average entrepreneur, doing that, like, why start to add automations and AI into this stuff, and don't really know much about it, and so why get there
Yeah.
when what you're doing is just working? I feel like a lot of people are there. I also thought it was funny. It's like, like we tell our clients to post on LinkedIn, but we don't do it. It's just like the typical, like plumber or painter situation of like,
Mhm.
you're always busy fixing your client's stuff, but you haven't
Yeah, make mess, yeah.
painted your own home kind of thing. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad to see an entrepreneur that found the no-code, low-code way now feeling the power of being able to have those skills with their own business, to be able to control their own business, because that's real. Like I've been there, you've been there, of just like, we built these businesses that we couldn't control. Now that we have businesses that we can control because it's built on these technologies, it's so empowering. And so,
Yeah. And
it's great.
I think the thing we didn't really touch upon much, we kind of pointed it out, but there's lots of room there, was that translation between what the clients wanted and what needed to get built.
Yeah.
It's not just like taking a recording of a call and sending it to someone and say, hey, go fix that, go do this. It's, hey, I understand at a really fundamental level what they're talking about, all of the specific words they use, why they need it a certain way, and you can then build it exactly for that. And now forevermore, he understands the business and the tech that he's built, and he can continue to help and guide and suggest and all of those things. And so I think it's awesome. I think this is exactly the reason why no code and low code exists. And I'm happy to hear this wonderful story.
Yeah, actually, Bubble just sent out a no-code report today, and their leading identity was bootstrappers. And I think it makes a lot of sense. It's like, if you can, usually you're used to raise money to build technology, but now if you can build technology without actually needing to raise money, maybe you just don't raise money. Now you just bootstrap it yourself and go out there and just make money and make revenue, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
All right, so that's it for this week in No Code and AI. We have another show planned for next week, so we'll see you then. But otherwise, have fun out there in this crazy landscape, and we'll catch you guys next week in No Code and AI.
See you next week in No Code and AI.